Hey guys, I'm Dominic with 9 to 5 Tactical, and today we'll be reviewing ports versus comps on our 2011s. If you're new to the channel, we all run ports and comps from our everyday carries to our duty pistols. We don't like recoil because it makes shooting harder. Why would we want to make something that's already really difficult to master even more difficult? As for the equipment that we'll be comparing today, we have the port on the Staccato P done up by Monster Tactical. This is their Grand Master GENGHIS Komp. Thanks again, Vinny, for sending this out to us to review. So now, why are we using this port compared to other ports that Monster Tactical offers? As you know, if you watch the channel on a regular basis, Brandon does run a Lucky 7 style porting. The reason why we chose the Grand Master GENGHIS Komp because it's a hybrid between the Lucky 7s and the GENGHIS Komp put together. The GENGHIS Komp is known for having a mimicked expansion chamber at the end. It says on the website it's supposed to mimic a true expansion chamber. So this is as close as we can get to what a porting can feel like to a compensator. As for our comped gun, we are running the Staccato XC, which features a island style barrel comp. Both guns are featuring their respective red dots, and both are running the Surefire X300, and they are also stock internally. For the science behind ports, when the projectile is launched through the barrel, as the projectile goes through the barrel, there will be gas trailing behind it, and what the ports do, they gradually release the gases through the top before it hits the end of the muzzle. So what this is effectively doing is trying to exhaust as much gas as possible before the bullet leaves the end of the barrel, effectively reducing muzzle climb and felt recoil. Yep. Unlike ports, when the projectile is launched to the barrel, the gas will stay all the way up until the end until it hits the baffle at the front of the compensator here, acting as a true expansion chamber and launching all the gas up to the top, and basically virtually leaving the bullet only launching through the end of the muzzle. Now, we can't talk about ports without discussing the hot topic that is low retention shooting. For some reason, people think ports are bad for EDC, not only because it can reduce velocity, but because of potential shrapnel and gases in your face. Now, we have some very analytical data tests that we're going to do here, and you can be the judge of that yourselves. All right, so for our super analytical tests here, we have a cardboard target which is clean on the bottom half, and we're going to see if any fragments from the ports show up on the bottom side. So to simulate low retention shooting and pretend this is like my flesh and bones, we go in here. So it is hot. We're just going to shoot underneath here and see what happens. So come over here, you see this. There's actually there are holes coming out the other side. It's like trying to poke through. So if we flip it over, there are in fact fragments piercing the cardboard. So you do get very small fragments, which would, if this was your skin, probably seat themselves in your skin. It would not feel very nice. So yes, fragments do happen from ports. Okay, so now we're going to try again with the Staccato XC to see if comps have any shrapnel come out of it, or is it just gas. So based on test results from this side, we don't see any shrapnel protruding like we did with the port side. Now if we flip it over, there's virtually nothing here except the carbon blast that you're getting, which is like embedding itself into the white here. But opposed to the other side, not only are you seeing carbon blast, but you're actually seeing deep cuts from the shrapnel being thrown into the cardboard. So either way, it's going to be very unpleasant getting some brass thrown at you from the ports. It's also still going to be unpleasant from the comps, but mainly carbon blasted in your face. Now, obviously, as I said, it's a very unpleasant experience with both of those. Now, here's a solution. No. Now, this isn't a training video or a self-defense type of video, but if someone's already this close to you, or you have to be like this and they're up against you, you might already have some other problems you got to worry about. GMGK.
It's okay. I mean, I'll say I threw it, but I don't think I actually did.
So if we don't count the one that Brandon threw,
I didn't throw it.
Or the one that surprised him, the grouping is ever so slightly tighter, but not by much, honestly. Like, it's not that big of a difference.
It's at 25 yards.
Yes, I mean, all these are 25 yards. So we have the Lucky 7s, the GMGK, and the XC right here. So if you guys are worried about accuracy loss with porting, it's really not that big of a deal here, as you can see. Well, this is with 2011s, by the way. They have bull barrels, so they are a little bit more accurate than what you get in like a striker fired polymer pistol.
So just to show real quick as well over the entire thing, the gripping up here is going to be the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP staccato. Down here is going to be Lucky 7's Sport staccato, and then the XC staccato right here. Let's say you do count that 6-1 shot up there. The grouping is actually pretty much the same amongst all of them. So safe to say, if you get your staccato comped or ported, it's still going to be very accurate.
Moving to the pros and cons, we're going to eliminate the ones that universally apply to both of the comps and port setups. Both are going to reduce felt recoil as well as aid in return to zero, and both are going to affect the slide speed travel. Also, ports and comps are noticeably louder and more concussive when shooting. Starting with the pros that are unique to the ports, you will not be required to add any length while reducing your felt recoil and helping with your return to zero. Obviously with a comp, you have to add something at the end to increase the length, and what that does, it does not make it as comfortable to carry or conceal. While we're on the topic of extra length, the next pro is that a threaded barrel is not required. As you can see here, ports are directly milled into your slide and cut directly into your barrel. That also means you have less length to deal with as well. Not only that, if you live in one of those states where you have less freedom than us, for example, ports are a great option. The next pro is felt recoil. Now, it depends on the type of porting package you have, but something with ports we notice that travel a good length of the barrel is that they have a really soft, if not softer, felt recoil impulse than a comp to barrel would at the end. Now, for example, we have the Lucky 7's port, which is also by Monsoon Tactical, which is on Brandon's personal Staccato P. With a porting style like this, the gas will be exiting the barrel sooner, as the porting style is longer and starts way before the end of the muzzle. Now, what this does, as gas travels and exits each port individually, this causes a more gradual feeling felt recoil impulse than more of a snap. So in smooth brain terms, a porting package like this kind of has a more gradual shove feeling, while a compensator still retains that snap. And the last pro we have for ports is that it is generally cheaper. If you already have a threaded barrel, it's not really going to cost you that much to add a comp at the end for a couple $100s. But if you don't, a threaded barrel service for Staccato P will cost you an additional $750, and then you have to get a comp, whether that's aftermarket or from Dawson Precision, that will still range about $200 or more, so that brings it up to about $900 to get that up. But if you don't have a threaded barrel already and want to save yourself some money, the porting package such as the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP that we have here will cost you about $450. Now with the cons, we're going to start with one of the most popular ones, is velocity loss. Obviously, as how ports work, they are way before the end of the muzzle generally, and when the bullet travels through the barrel, the gas is being exhausted, which is not pushing out the bullet as much anymore, resulting in velocity loss. Now, if for example, to some that might not matter much, but if you're like me, you shoot 147 grains already, that's subsonic, and you take let's say 100 FPS off, now you're shooting at 900 FPS. Now where this does matter is with the expansion of your hollow points. Now if you have less velocity, it does not aid in the expansion, it actually does quite the opposite. Now this does also depend on the aggressiveness of your porting package. Some ports are just like a single port at the end, and this may vary depending on your type of porting package that you have. Just like how you lose some velocity, you do lose some accuracy. Of course, this also depends on the aggressiveness, again, of your porting package. Now, how does that happen? Well, when you cut holes into your barrel, you are losing some rifling. So when you do that, you obviously lose some accuracy. Luckily for us, with the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP porting setup that we have, we didn't suffer any noticeable accuracy loss. When we compared the XC to the Staccato P with the porting package, we noticed that the groupings were very similar. The next con we have is warranty loss. Now this kind of depends on if your gun comes ported from the factory or not. Now let's say you're one of those individuals where it didn't come ported from the factory, you essentially nullify your warranty completely. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're obviously cutting the slide directly. It's being cut into, as well as the barrel it's being cut into, which kind of messes up with rifling and how the gun can function, especially with the slide speed being affected. Now this is just something to think about when you get a porting package. Obviously do your due diligence to make sure the gun is already reliable out of the box, and maybe do a break-in period before you decide to get a porting package. Once again, with the GMGK, short for Grand Master Genghis Komp, I'm going to say that now because it's a mouthful to say, that we've had no reliability issues with it. It has been perfectly functional for like the 1,000 rounds we've put through it so far. The last con we have, which is also a varying con, is shrapnel. Now this can depend on how well your cut on the ports are done, or if it was backboard properly, that your ports can cause shrapnel being thrown to your face. That is obviously a con for most people. Now, even if it was backboard, I don't think gases being thrown in your face is very pleasant anyways. So just something to think about when you have ports, when you're shooting from low retention potentially, that you may have shrapnel and gas being thrown in your face. Now we're finally onto the comps. Starting with the unique pros to this is that unlike ports, you don't really suffer any velocity loss. Actually, hardly any, if not at all. Now, why does that happen is because when you launch a projectile all the way through the barrel, the gas and its pressure is retained all the way up until the end where the bullet exits the muzzle. But the gases, instead of exiting the muzzle with the bullet, it strikes the baffle of the compensator and is vented upwards. Unlike ports, with compensators you will not be receiving any shrapnel to your face if you're shooting low retention. However, the experience is still going to be rather unpleasant as you'll be getting a bunch of gas in your face instead. Another great thing about compensators is that you generally don't lose any accuracy throwing them onto the end of your gun. How do you not lose any accuracy? Well, unlike ports, you don't have to sacrifice any rifling when adding them to your gun. The last pro, and finally the best thing about the compensators, is the return to zero. Something we noticed especially about comps is that the return to zero was significantly faster than the ports, and that's because you do get a true expansion chamber that remains open and does not close off when the slide cycles. Also, it's right at the end of the gun, so when the gas is being vented upwards, it's basically forcing the muzzle of your gun back down. And now we have the cons of the comp, starting with the length. Obviously, if you see here with Staccato XC, if you took off the comp at the end, it would be virtually the same length as the Staccato P. Now, this does not help in comfort and concealability at all. Obviously, the Staccato P is not very comfortable to carry in the first place. Now you were to add the extra length of a comp at the end, does not aid in that at all. Again, while we're on the topic of length, threaded barrels. Now that is another con for those, especially those who live in a state where those aren't even allowed. So that compensator with a threaded barrel may not even be an option for you. Of course, that's where ports come in handy. Or you have to spend the extra $1,500 more than a ported Staccato by getting the Staccato XC. So not only does a threaded barrel add extra length, you also have to mention that when you get a holster. Some holster companies may not even have a threaded barrel option for your gun specifically. So something to think about when you get a holster set up and going into your comfort and concealability. The next is timing. Obviously, some comps actually come self-timed, or some do not come that way. I mean, this is more of the nitpickier side, which does require a little bit more manual labor to set up, is setting up the shims manually to get the timing right to make sure your compensator is working at its maximum effectiveness. Lastly, we did notice that compensated guns tend to be more pickier with ammo. Something we noticed with Staccato XC is that it didn't seem to want to run 115 grains as reliably as 147s. When I actually first got this pistol over the winter after spending $5,000, just lobbed some 115 grains into it. Not sure if it's a break-in issue or not, but after spending $5,000 and getting a couple of failure to extracts with some 115 grains was less than ideal. So compensators tend to favor more hot ammo. Also fun to note is that some comp guns actually recommend that you run 124 grains opposed to 115 grains.
So here in the channel, we like to do the Pepsi challenge. So now we have the Grand Master Genghis Komp against the XC. We're gonna compare how they feel against each other. Alrighty. Do the next one, XC. Alrighty. So I gotta say that they are both very comparable. The comp shoots ever so slightly, but honestly, damn, they're really similar. I'm gonna be honest. The Grand Master Genghis Komp takes the bite off on a normal stock Staccato P, which is awesome, and it makes it very comparable to the XC.
All right, my turn to go up. I'm gonna start with the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP by QVO Tactical. Go. Straight to the XC. All right, so my thoughts on here. I think as far as felt recoil, I think they feel almost exactly the same. I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel much of a difference as far as felt recoil. I felt the kick in my hand was just about the same. But I will say though, the XC1 in Return to Zero, I did see that the dot, as far as we have a seasonal steel target at about 7 yards-ish, and the dot pretty much never left the target. It was staying on the silhouette the entire time. Well, this one had just a slightly more muzzle rise compared to the XC. Full recoil, just about the same. Return to Zero, XC1 for sure. That's my opinion on the matter.
Oh wow, I flinched. I missed. All right. Okay. Regardless of the flinch at the beginning, I've been spoiled by the XC's 2.5 pound trigger, but I can agree with both of them. As in terms of felt recoil, they're very similar. I'm not sure if it's a placebo effect, but the Return to Zero of the XC kind of gives it like that. It almost feels like it's softer because like the red dot does stay in the window a lot more frequently and dances a little bit less than the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP. So we're going to do a red dot test and see how the red dot behavior is doing with the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP first, and then we will compare it with the Staccato XC right after.
Alright, so my final thoughts on comparing the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP to the Staccato XC with the actual comp. I don't feel there's too much of a difference when it comes to felt recoil, especially like I said before. The XC definitely won in Return to Zero. So a couple of things to consider with the difference in our test from the XC having a better Return to Zero. The only real difference between the duty rated Staccato P to the competition Staccato XC is going to be the 2.5 pound trigger pull, the lightened spring weight, and the extra weight from the Island Comp combined with the full length dust cover up there at the front. So it's really gonna be up to you if you think that $1,500 extra is gonna be worth just those little upgrades. Mind you, this was like, I think like $3,000 total. We're getting the port and everything on here with the gun, while the XC is sitting at $4,500. So basic question is there a $1,500 difference between this to this? I personally don't really see it. I would much rather go this route and get a port job, in my opinion, than go with a XC like this. If we had another aftermarket support option, like a park my machine compared to, perhaps we may have different results. Maybe we could get a video like that coming for you guys in the future. But as it sits right now, I'm actually more on team ports than I am on comps when it comes to Staccato.
So for my final thoughts for the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP against XC is that I would actually choose the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP. Like the guys said, that the felt recoil was very similar, just the Return to Zero for the dot coming up and down was a little bit different. The XC returned a little bit quicker than the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP, but that's not too big of a deal for me. The big deal was actually the price difference between these two. $1,500 is quite a bit of money for an average person. So $1,500 can go to an actual like all your ammo that you can use to train with. So that's where I don't see the value in getting $1,500 extra into an XC, and that's why I picked the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP.
So for me, I think I preferred how the XC shot. I think it shot better. Did it shoot $1,500 better? No. I think both in terms of felt recoil shot very similar, but the Return to Zero was better with the XC. Brand says only 10%, but I think it was like 20%. Maybe my recoil control it just isn't as good as his. But with the XC, I was able to track the dot a lot easier than Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP. Now, if you're running on a tight budget, but you still want a 2011 like that shoots super flat as an XC, definitely go the ported with the Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP route with the Staccato P. I think it's about $3,000 to get that done, not including the other attachments. And then the XC it costs about $4,500 without any of the attachments. So obviously with the XC shooting better, I expect it to shoot better. Not only is it like with a true expansion chamber, it also has extra weight. I mean, the XC weighs more, it's got extra weight floating at the end of the barrel, so that helps make it be more stable under recoil. So for me, I think the XC shot better. I probably still would prefer it depending on your income especially, but I cannot say that it's worth $1,500 more than the ported GENGHIS KOMP. Now obviously both of these guns, being a ported 2011 and a KOMP 2011, are both phenomenal shooters. They have one of the best triggers out of the box. One's ported, one's KOMP. They both alleviate recoil as much as they can. However, if you don't get proper training, you're still gonna suck. So make sure you get good and stay good. So that's all we really have for you today. Is it worth it? Let us know in the comments below. Would you rather get a ported Grand Master GENGHIS KOMP Staccato for about $3 grand, or would you just rather spend the big bucks and get a one and done package deal with the Staccato XC for $4,500? Let us know in the comments below. And with that, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. And also check out our Patreon. We don't really have much content or any on there yet, but it also allows us to keep continuing making videos like these. So with that, we'll see you in the next one. See ya.